How's y'all doing, everybody? Again, this is your host, the Whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. First and foremost, I want to say what's good to my fam, my subscribers, my new ones, my day ones. What's good, everybody? Thank you for each and every one of you clicking on the video here. Passerbys, if you happen to pass by, this is the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. We always got a grand opening over here. Go down the aisle, happen to see some things that make you feel some kind of way. Remember, the motto of my show is the truth don't need no partner. Today's date is September the 14th, 2020. And this here is a follow-up on the story that I had did the other day about the Clayton County Sheriff and what we've seen in that video, which I will do another replay to refreshing those. Again, I don't like to play this because of the continuous play may make our people become desensitized by seeing things that are shocking. So I'm playing this in order for the simple fact that it's an update to this story. And let me show you this here before I do all that, right? So we see that now police officers who attacked black Lyft passenger fired. Let me say that again. Police officer who attacked black Lyft passenger now fired. Okay? So the other day I did a video, did pretty well for especially a show that has been banned, suppressed, taken out. I mean, they are actually taking away subscribers on the daily. I mean, I got all the information to show that how things just is. But again, you do what you have to do. Again, that's what you have to do when the truth is what it is. And that, I had got an interesting person who decided to comment about what had took place in that video and some of the things that I stated, right? And from their position, I want to go ahead and elaborate because based on what had took place in that conversation and things he stated, looks like he's coming from an official capacity in the profession. So I wanted to address this directly. That news don't normally do this, but we as Black Minds News, we want people to not have a misunderstanding about why we do what we do over here. It's not here about trying to ostracize anybody. Again, the advocacy from their position is that they do their job to serve and protect. We as the black media, we are here to not let other people who may misconstrue or manipulate situations from their perspective, but to give it from our own interpretation and our perspective about the situations from our experiences in life and from the facts that are presented. So again, to reiterate, we're going to talk about the Lyft passenger. Again, that's the other day, a black Lyft passenger seen to have been, and again, I must just go ahead and give it to you once again. I play this not to make light of the situation or to keep reiterating this to make people become desensitized, but this is the news. And then we also do kind of a, teaching from a common sense approach about these situations that seem to be reoccurring all the time. So sit back for a second. Let me go ahead and show this once again.
Mars, call your radio. Oh God! No! I'm gonna call your mother too. Oh God! Y'all cannot do this. Y'all cannot do this. I'm running down. Get off him! Get the fuck off him! No! Don't kill him! He said he can't breathe. He said he can't breathe. Officer! He said he can't breathe. He said he can't breathe.
What's that?
You can't give him a handcuff. Get a handcuff on this hand over here. He's bleeding. Get a handcuff on that hand. He's bleeding. He's bleeding out his nose.
Got a handcuff. All right. Hey.
Baby.
Back up. Back up. Yo, where's your car at? Where's your car at? Is this your car?
Please.
Who is it? You know her?
He was giving us a ride.
Okay, you need to get back in the car. He needs to pull the car over there. Pull the car over there.
Dad, you okay?
Bam, get in the car before you end up in handcuffs.
We are black, right? So, again, the Lyft passenger was attacked for not showing his ID, is what the reports has stated. And so, according to what they talked about, that the police officers who were on the scene, you see the video of the altercation where the video starts where they're already on the ground. We don't get to see from the perspective of the beginning unless there's going to be a releasing of the video by the police officers, right? We're not sure whether they have body cameras or not. What we see is those who are bystanders and maybe the woman who might have been out there with the individual. And his name is Roderick Walker, right? And so somehow the word Lyft has got into the conversation, but as reports is talking about, I'll go more into that as I give out more details. But we see that two officers are restraining Mr. Roderick Walker, and that it is stemmed from the fact that not giving up his ID. And so now we see that the reports have come out and stated that the officer, whose name has not been released, has been terminated. Okay, now again, he's being fired from the Clayton County Sheriff's Office. And some of the reports of the way that they're using the propaganda, they use the terms a helpless black man pleading with the enforcement to leave him alone. Helpless black man. See? We got to understand that there's certain people who are out here who are going to use this as a way, as a rallying cry, and also a way to demean us, because we seem to be helpless, to be in a position of at the mercy and will. And then you even have people who will say that there is an impunity that is being put upon us in these situations. They talk about him being smacked in the face. And then they talk about how the officer is in full uniform, right? And, let me show you again the scene, the picture on the scene there, to give you more as to what took place there. Because again, there's a reason why I'm going to actually deal with this, okay? So you see the three different positions. You see how the officer, both of them are on him, right? You have the woman who's screaming, pleading for his life. You see that looked like even after he gotten up out of that unconscious state, that something was wrong with his legs, to the fact that they had to carry him, right? And so, this became a little fire. A lot of people had a lot of stuff to say. We seen I created the thumbnail. Originally, I didn't have his picture, and then later on his picture came about, so I ended up putting the picture out there. So you've seen how he was with swollen eyes. We've seen in the video how he'd been punched several times, had knees in his back and his neck. Okay, and then there's the people who were present, but they seem to have no names about any of the individuals and not even recognizing the fact that there's children, trying to make the scene that the children or somebody It just happened to be passing by and just screaming. Them screams came from somebody who seemed to be connected to. When those officers got up off of his back and he turned his face bloody and seen the motionlessness of Mr. Roderick Walker, you heard the little girl scream. That's not somebody who's passing by who doesn't know, right? But again, that's how people use. And again, remember, this country spends its budget on war and propaganda, right? So we know propaganda is a big tool used to keep the manipulation, to have certain people with a certain kind of mindset. And those of us who have the mindset to discern and decipher and shift through a lot of the monotonous, right? And so again, this all is going back to this car's being pulled over. Originally, what they say is from a tail light, right? That's how this began. And so we see that, according to what they had reported, talked about how the police officers came to the vehicle, asked for the driver for his driver's license, and then went from the driver to the passenger, right? And so there was the confrontation between that of asking, refusing, and then being asked to get up out of the car. And then what we see is what we saw. We see that now, based on being reprimanded, we see that the sheriff is now going to be put on the place on administrative leave, pending due to the investigation that the Internal Affairs has been put, right? And then there's the report that, again, as I said, the Lyft, right? They're talking about the rideshare company, which was the Lyft. And we seen that there was it looked like they came out with a statement and they was made aware about what happened in Georgia. And they were confirming the fact that this had nothing to do with their company or any part of the share riding, whether it be equipment or cars or whatever they were denouncing. And then they also gave a PR statement of unequivocally stand against racism and unnecessary use of force, right? This is what they're saying. And the fact that this Lyft and how that Lyft got into the, conversation or was even used by the media seems to be kind of a mystery, right? So we got to kind of keep that in mind. Remember that they came out, made a statement, and you know why they had to make a statement is because as a company, and then to get this kind of negative media coverage, it is like you need to go in there and try to plug these holes to separate yourself and make the right statements. But I'm trying to still figure out, why was the term Lyft used? That hasn't been cleared yet, right? And that's the mystery. Was it a Lyft? Was it not a Lyft, right? And so in the case of the Lyft company, they're stating that it is not. Now, they would have all the reason to try to get themselves out of the situation, because how that whole situation took place, okay, it is what it is, right? And so we see that the deputies, they kept striking him using what they can, we are all using the term now called excessive force, right? And so that's what that is there. And so what I want to show here is that I got a comment from I can't say he's a subscriber, but he made a comment, and I wanted to address this because, sometimes people say things and it's like, okay, where'd you get that from, right? So you're going to see on your screen there, right? You see on your screen, right? And that's coming from the individual who sent me that tweet, or not even tweet, that was actually a comment, right? Let's see, we got that right? Got that going? Okay, let's go into this. All right, so let me read out what you see on your screen that he has there, right? So this is what he stated, what he said to me, right? He says that gotta love when the news doesn't cover the whole story at all. Walker had rented a vehicle, did not return it for a long time. The rental company had reported it stolen. Walker ended up returning the vehicle with his family, and since they didn't know he was showing up, they called the cops to report that the man who took the rental car for an insane amount of time had arrived. They got into a vehicle prior to officers showing up, the Lyft. By then, they knew who Walker was and that he had 2 outstanding warrants. When they stopped the vehicle, they asked for the rear passenger ID, and he refused. They then told him to step out of the car because they knew he had a warrant and was identified by the rental company. This is more than lawful. If it was just a traffic stop, then it would not have been legal, but since this was a different incident and they knew the ID of Walker already, it was a legal request to have him step out of the vehicle to confirm the warrants. When they told him he was being placed under arrest due to his warrant, he resisted arrest. Yes, the officer used too much force, but not for what you think. You are not allowed to punch a person while the other officer has that person in a headlock. Maybe he probably mean officer. Walker had no way of following commands in the position he was in. If he was not in the control position and fought, then punches would be legal, but in this situation, Walker was not able to obey commands. The officer was probably just ramped up because he's in a fight when the guy's refusing to be arrested and just didn't think things through. But the stop and the situation is Walker's fault. If he would have followed commands, this incident wouldn't have escalated. But now it's common to just fight cops because there's a chance for a nice payday instead of being a lawful citizen. Walker put himself in the position he was in. The cops were just trying to deal with it, and one of them made the wrong choice to punch when he did it in a world where the media hammers you. Cops have an impossible job, and criminal media makes it harder. Probably a good thing he lost his job because there are just better careers out there now. Wait for the whole video before you judge. You will see that Walker did everything wrong but will get zero blame for putting himself in this situation. Personal responsibility is a thing of the past. Warrants were for child abuse and having a firearm as a felony. Right? All right. So that's there. That's what the individual there said. His name is J.A. Vickers. Right? And so we want to take what J.A. Vickers said, because what I asked J.A. Vickers to do was to, provide me with where he got his information from on the back part of that story. Right? He ended up sending back to me. He told me that, again, he told me the things that he said. I won't disclose all that unless you go in there and read it for yourself. But then this is the reason why I want to address this, because as Black Minds News, that we do a lot of stories and dealing with the mishaps that happen a lot of times with citizens versus police. Now, technically, when you look at it, you would think that officers and citizens are on the same side, because one is about law and order and the citizen is one who does obey the laws. But then at times there's citizens who disobey the laws, but there's also the other side when those who are supposed to be upholding the law who also break the law. And so when you got what they say, 2 wrongs don't make a right, right? So that's what happens here. Does something get offset in the situation here, right? So I'm going to look at what he said and let's go over this again, because, okay, based on what I just read to you is what he has stated. Now, again, the back of the story is that Walker, which is the individual who we've seen who got pummeled by the police, rendered unconscious, right? And then we've seen the picture of how he looked afterwards. Now, he had rented a vehicle that he did not return it. Now, again, I have to take this story for what he is saying, because, again, there is no backstory to this. He, being a person who is from the inside, is stating this based on what he states and what his profession is and who that is I'm going to give the scenario that he gave, right, as to how this became knowledgeable. So let's just say, okay, it was a rented car, right? And this rented car, according to what he is saying, J.A. Vickers, that this was a rental car that had been, let's say, it's not stated, but we're going to say generalize and say long time. Long time can be 2 days for somebody, 1 day for another, a week, 2 weeks, a month, 6 months, a year. So long time in itself is just generalizing time. It doesn't specify specifically. So we're just going to say long time, what leads the mind to kind of just imagine everybody's going to look at time differently. But we're just going to say long time. Okay, so a person who rents a car, kept the car. We as BADOS, black people, we pretty much know about them rental cars, those, especially coming up 80s and 90s. And when they started to allow us to be able to get them vehicles, we would rent the car for the weekend and start keeping the day cars the next extra week and so forth. But yet there ain't no money on the card. And so you still driving the vehicle till you return it. So we kind of understand that, right? This is some things we just kind of know. And so according what he states is that the rental company had reported it stolen. Now, the question becomes, when did they, the rental company, call the car or reported the vehicle stolen? You never specified that, right? You never specified. You just said that the company. Now, according to what you're going to say, I will be a betting man and believe that it was not prior before this situation here, right? I'm going to say it wasn't prior before. I'm going to say it's during this situation, right? Just on the fact of what you wrote. So again, two wrongs ain't going to make this right, but we're going to go on. So now he says that Walker ended up returning the vehicle with his family. So what Jay is saying is that what we see is Roderick and how we heard the child screaming, the kids, who they try to write in the stories and make it like there was some passerby that happened to be observing. A passerby observing child will not be screaming, seeing somebody who they don't have no real connection. That scream that you heard was somebody it was personal with, right? Daddy, uncle, you know what I'm saying? It was somebody personal, brother, right? So he brought his family, dropped the car off, and he does that, okay? Now, according to what JA says, that when he brought the car back to the rental car company, they was not expecting him to show up, right? They weren't expecting him. Of course not. He already been had the car, so he would not be expecting him, but he does bring the vehicle back, right? Now, according, this is what you say. Now, what is the relationship between Roderick Walker and the rental car? What is the thing that bridges them? The vehicle, right? It is the vehicle that is the one that bridges both of them. So if prior to him being there, right, as you said, that the rental car had reported it stolen. So based on you saying that, I would believe that when you said that, that was prior before this is taking place. Right? Does not specify, and this is word of mouth that you're reporting. Now, according to what you read, what you say also is that he brings the car back. They wasn't expecting him. And then you say they called the cops to report the man who took the rental car. Why are they calling the cops on the man who's returning the vehicle? Is the question. Why are they calling the police if in question of a business, in the business between Roderick Walker and the rental car place is the vehicle, and the vehicle is being returned? The only thing of concern to the business of this time is retrieving the vehicle. Am I right or am I wrong? Right? Now, he leaves probably for the simple fact he's not going to pay, right? We're just going to say he's not paying. Most of the time when you do this kind of thing, those who, again, you from where I'm from, we done did this before. We're going to actually probably come when the place is closed, drive the car off and put the key in the drop box with, they had the drop slot where you put the keys in there and go on about your long head, right? That's what most people would do. So he goes in there. That's what I'm assuming is. Again, we're taking the story from J.A. Vickers. And so they say, according to him, he said they called the cops to report the man who took the rental car. Okay? And then he wants to reiterate again for an insane amount of time. He had arrived. Now, I don't know why he wants to go back and say that. It's trying to create a seriousness in this situation, right? That this serious that he brought. Here's a man who had our vehicle. We've been wanting our vehicle back so that we could take the vehicle back so that we can actually do renting, and then we would deal with you in the proper manner. Am I right, J.A. Vickers? Is there a proper way that when this situation arises with a business that you would take this situation and there's a proper procedure that you do to, if you want to render, get back the money and put this person in some kind of financial bond or some kind of financial way to repay you, right? There's a process for that. Is it right or am I wrong? Okay. And so what he goes on to say is that they got into a vehicle prior to the officers showing up the Lyft. Okay. Now this Lyft, this individual here in the capacity and profession he's in, he's also stating Lyft. Again, Lyft has gone out and said that guess what? We didn't have nothing to do with this. That was not a Lyft car. We are denouncing that. We have no, and we don't agree with excessive force and the PR work. Okay. Even you are saying Lyft. Now again, we don't know where the Lyft part comes in, but it makes sense that if I was bringing back a rental car, right? And I'm taking my family because maybe we were already out and I'm like, okay, we're going to need to get back because I'm giving up the car. We ain't got no car. Either I have somebody come with me who's going to drive me back, or Lyft sounds about appropriate, right? It sounds like something you would do. Okay. And so he says now we have to insinuate that when they left, the officers arrived to the place of business, correct? Because that's what he said. He said that they left, the officers come. Now, when the police come, what does the rental car people say? What do they say? Do they say that the person who used to rent the car has returned the vehicle and left? Okay? So what should the police officers have done at that situation once that's been disclosed? There's a proper procedure for you as a business because you have their information. Right? You had to give all that proper information for you to be able to rent the vehicle. You got some kind of financial institution, the credit card, you got an ID, driver's license, all that. So there's a proper procedure that a business in that capacity would do to get that person, right, in a situation or procedure so that they can render that, right? So that means that you would most likely tell them you probably need to go ahead and file a court case on them. Right? Am I right or am I wrong? Okay. So now, instead, we don't know the conversation between the person and the police. But we know the actions that the police officers are going to take, because instead of them telling them that and proceeding to go on, they went into more investigativeness of the individual than probably should have been necessary to do. Right? Because I don't hear nowhere in the stories, there's nothing that you said that says that you said they called the police, right? They had reported the car stolen, right? But again, the police officers didn't catch them in driving the vehicle. They then already returned the vehicle back to you. So now that you got the vehicle back in your possession, there's a procedure that you do as a company to go recoup your money, right? But there's a conversation between them and you. And when that conversation happened, one of the officers, if not both, went and looked, because you got all the information, right? How else was they going to be able to just go apprehend somebody? Because how were they able to run? Because sometimes people rent cars with somebody else's, ID, credit card, so forth. They'd be the ones and they might be the drivers, right? So that means that the information that you got had to be the individual that you end up now are going to later on as the situation goes down, right? So we see that taking place. We see they do end up catching up to them. Now, the thing is, he wants to stress is that Walker had 2 outstanding warrants. To me, this is the point that everybody tries to use to justify what is happening presently. Presently, you have to get A before we're going to talk about C. There's A and B to get to C, correct? It's not A, C. It's A, B, C, right? So what we want to say is we want to talk about C to justify A. C would be justified if C was with A and B in the same progress. Let's say if Mr. Walker would have been driving in his vehicle, right? You pull him over, you come to find out that this individual and there's a warrant on there for his arrest, and then you apprehend him, and then because of the 2 warrants, now everything is copacetic. There ain't no problem here, right? There ain't no problem here, right? But that's not what happened here. What happened here is somebody went extended beyond the duty that was probably necessary because this could have been dealt with at a later time, right? And I'm not saying that it's not good police work to say, okay, who is this individual that just did? Oh, wow, warrants. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go after them. Now it doesn't state, he doesn't state, and it doesn't, nobody writes about it. Now I guess all this stuff is going to come out later, but I'm doing this probably before all that come out. So then when it comes out and I'm wrong, I'll talk about it, right? So they go in, they find out that he has 2 outstanding warrants, right? And based on the information that they knew prior to, so when they came to the vehicle, now here it goes. Somehow they catch up to the vehicle that done left prior to them getting there, right? Why do they have to specify that they pulled the vehicle over for a tail light then? Let me say that again. Why is it that the report said that the police officers had to pull the vehicle over due to the simple fact of using a broken tail light or a tail light out? See, black people, especially black men, we have gone to court for air fresheners in the window, right? Saying no seatbelt, loud muffler, right? All these things that under discretion, the judge would not know, but you have to go in there to defend it. But somebody would use this to justify the situation. So we're going to say a tail light. Now, a person's tail light out only would know that on they pumping the brakes and then the light don't come on unless you're the type of person who you make sure you do your checks and make sure your brake lights and all that. But most likely people don't know that until they going somewhere, somebody find, hey, your tail light, your blinker didn't come on, right? But anyway, so that prior knowledge of seeking and find out who Mr. Walker was gave you the knowledge you need to when you pulled over, but you needed to have the reason. So you used a broken tail light out, right? Is that what was used? Okay. And so, according to the information that you had from what was given by the rental company, so now, based on all this information in your system saying that he got a warrant, this is now going to validate. So when he goes and asks him for his ID, which is the real cause of why you're doing what you're doing, right? Think about it. Is that not the real reason why you pulled this vehicle over? So is there any breaking of the law? Is this 2 wrongs right here going to make a right? Do 2 of these wrongs going to make that a right? So the individual who you pulled over, you created a fictitious event in order to get that person in that situation, to get the person who you wanted, correct? So right there, you who supposed to uphold is using to break to get what you're trying to get. Does he have it? I'm not going to say he don't have that. I'm not saying he don't have that. But did the situation from where A started, did you have to go apprehend? Did he have to go apprehend them? Right there he had to? Okay, but he didn't make the call. So I know you're going to say, wait, they called us to come. Okay, fine. So be it. Okay. All right. I'm not going to dispute that. Okay. So you say it's more than lawful. It was a traffic stop that it would not have been legal. Okay. What you mean it wasn't a traffic stop? You said a broken tail light. What is that? You had to be in motion in order for the police officer to pull you over to say that your tail light, the thing is, was he ever stopped? To see that his tail light even came on. That's another thing. Okay, but anyway, so you say that you just said that a traffic stop, then it would not be legal. But since this was a different situation, so wait a minute, you're commingling. You're mixing apples with oranges. Oh, it's not legal to do a traffic stop, but there's another situation. And the other situation is the fact that what is happening at the rent-a-car place. But you have to create this situation in order to get into that situation. So right then, based on you acknowledging that, have you not acknowledged that you are not, again, two wrongs not making it right? Okay? Okay, so let's move on. And so we see that they said that he says that to confirm the warrants, right, which they had already had to know, they had him step out asking for an ID, knowing that they already knew who he was. So this being placed under arrest due to his warrants. So now the situation is really based on the warrants, right? Think about this. So now the situation was originally about the rent-a-car. Let me say that again. The original situation that you said in the beginning when you start talking here was about what? The rent-a-car. That the car company called them to say that the car was stolen, but he done brought the vehicle back, right? Now that the vehicle done brought back, that's done with that. You go through the proper procedure if you want to get financial to him. But no, you pursued him based on you going in, looking for something to see if he was dirty and pursued it, right? Is that not what happened here? Is that not what happened? Huh? That's what happened, did it not? Okay? So now, you're talking about you're for the warrant. I thought you was there about the situation that happened with the rent-a-car place. I thought it was about the vehicle. See? This is why people, again, people know we know we need police. Police ought to be respected for the job that you do. The problem that citizens who obey and who, again, black folks, based on our history and talking about patty roll and the origins of where the police come from, we're not trying to be in the presence or be incapacitated unless we know we're doing things. And even when those people who do what they do, is that part of the cause and effect of the design of this country that has created, that made people have, in order for survival, to do? We don't justify it, but is there a cause and effect to it, right? And so to be painted criminals and thieves, and going back to the pig laws, then what happens? People steal, rob for necessities of survival. It doesn't condone it, but that's what happens here, right? So now you create a situation that, again, I thought it was A, but see, like now we got the B, we're talking about C. So A was the original call for you to come. Yet he done already dropped the vehicle off. B was you done went in the system and found that he got a warrant. C is now you in here apprehending him, arresting him, and then you got into the situation. How do you get B and C if originally it was about A? And then when you're sitting there talking now, you're only talking about C. You're talking about the warrants. What happened to the vehicle being stolen? See, you're not mentioning nothing about that vehicle being stolen. Nothing at all, right? He goes on saying that, yes, the officers used too much force, but not what you would think. What you mean? Does force have two different ways to look at it? Right? I understand when you talk about resisting arrest. My question to you would be, does every time that y'all being officers and being honest about yourself, has every time you use resist arrest, was it warranted? Only you can answer that. This ain't write down on the question, yes or no. This is only something internally in spirit that you can only answer. Y'all all know this. You all know that at times you have used this as break the glass, case of emergency, because I really don't got nothing here. But if I use this, at least I can get you to go through the process, right? A lot of times it's to create inconveniences for people when either they questioning your authority or they, letting you know that they know you own some BS, but you don't really want to admit it. But because you have the authority to be able to use it, you would do it, right? So resisting arrest don't always mean resisting arrest. It just means that under discretion of the officer, he has the right to use it when he feel like this is a card to be used, right? It's like a spade. It's a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 a spade. It's possible it can work. A lot of times to get thrown out, you don't show up to court, all that kind of things, right? Anything. But anyway, you say yes, the officer used too much force. Now, you go on to about trying to defend the fact about the force and about how they're using it. And then somehow, if he would have been in a different position, then it would have been justified. But because he was not in the right position, right, that everything that he was doing, punching in the head, face, and all that, another one choking him out, trying to smother him, right? All that stuff. Matter of fact, let's go back. Let's get that image. Get the image. Go back and get that image. Put that image back up there. Hold on. Go back. Put that image back up there. All this right here, right? We see down there 2 men on him, one on his neck, posing like an Old Spice commercial. All that stuff, right? Right? You know what I'm talking about, that Old Spice when they be doing that, right? The old school Old Spice, right? So anyway, we see all that, right? So again, you say that the punches would be legal based on the control position. So certain positions allow you lawfully that you can punch, kick, and beat the shit out of somebody. Right? That's what you're saying. But based on that, he wasn't in the position that both of them using their weight on him on top, while another one is, choking him out, and the other one is, trying to close his mouth and his nose. So again, what tactic is that they, again, I seen that in, I think it was in Vegas. I did a story where it was in Vegas where they did the same thing. Dude was selling water. They didn't want him selling water. He kind of questioned authority. They got into it. And next thing you know, they went straight to knock him out. They made him unconscious, hold his breath until he was knocked out. I'm like, when did that become, that's political correct procedures? Is that, or there's, again, some of that, what they call that, what kind of training they call that? It was kind of training they was doing up there in Minnesota, right? That kind of training. But anyway, so again, you saying based on the position and prone that the one is in. Okay, all right. And so you go into saying that because he refused to follow commands, right? And nobody's saying about being disobeyed. But again, isn't that under the discretion of a police officer when they say that somebody is not obeying? Could it be you agitated that somebody is saying some things that are true to you, and because they're hitting you, truth is like a knife and they're just stabbing you and stabbing you and stabbing you, when you know that sometimes, like sometimes somebody could be on some BS and they know they on BS, but then they don't like the fact that you call them out on BS, and so you agitated with them. And so that a lot of times what happens is somebody gets socked in the mouth or get into a fisticuff. But when it comes to police officers, what end up happening is they make you go through the process, right? And then let the judge sort it out, right? That kind of stuff. But anyway, so you saying that, the police officers probably, ramped up because they were in the fighting with the guy. And they said, you put the blame on Walker. That if he would have just stopped and complied in this situation, it would have been, it's all his fault because he made this happen. Really? Can we say honestly that those police officers extended beyond the duty of what was necessary to deal with a situation that was already resolved? Because that's why you're not talking anything about stolen vehicle. You're not talking about anything about the rent a car. We're now talking and focusing on warrants, right? You're talking about warrants now, right? And I'm not trying to devalue warrants. I'm not trying to say that warrants are not valid. I'm just saying that is not what you was there. That wasn't something that based on you and your partner coming across and dealing with, and it pops up. We're talking about you had situation A that's going to get you to B, that's going to get you to C. But yet you're not really even using A, right? You're not even using A. And then created B through back tail light. And then you get C in this whole situation. That's why you think they talking about firing. That's why they talking about firing, right? And so it goes on, and he says to the fact that, that it is becoming more common to just fight cops to get a nice payday. Let me tell you something. I don't know nobody, and I don't think you know nobody who want to deal with police having, protect my life as the free break the glass, get out of a situation to kill you, and talking about I'm trying to survive to get a payday. Is that your thinking? Because I'm telling you, you're wrong. Nobody is fighting no police for no payday. I don't know why one would even say that. I don't know who's trying to make y'all think to believe that, but that is the furthest thing from the truth. And let me tell you something. Black folks don't advocate for people who are guilty. When we see the situation and it is what it is, you don't see us out here advocating and fighting and activists for that. So I don't understand why y'all try to act as if like the situations that people are talking about are not merited. It's just the fact that the spotlight and the microscope and the magnifying glasses is being put on y'all. You understand? It's being put on y'all. So you got that, he goes on and says that he makes light of the situation that one man made the wrong choice to punch. We see a lot of that punching. You see what I'm saying? We see a lot of knees in the neck. We see a lot of shooting. But the question becomes, and you have to ask yourself, and anybody who might hear me, you being in the profession you in and others that were with you, can you say that everybody that you know is psychologically stable to be in the position? Only you can answer that. It's not a right or wrong answer. It's only something internal that you have to look at. Is every person that you know in the uniform psychologically stable to be able to deal with? Again, it's a commendable, honorable profession. But when you got honorable and non-commendable people, this is what it creates, the type of scenarios that we're seeing. And some of this stuff has been going on for so long that, again, seem like people don't want the evolution of humanity. We want to stay in this muck and mire and think that this is what we're going to be okay, but it can't stay that way. And so, again, I'm pretty sure y'all got to believe in something, because you always, a call away from death. So you got to believe in a higher power. So if you believe in a higher power, then how can you sit there and think that, that people out here don't want change and want peace? Now, again, those who do what they do when they encounter y'all, then that's the situation. Again, you don't see civilians trying to protect criminals. You're never going to see that, right? But the difference is when you have a race society, when black people see things from a perspective versus white people, because white people are primarily going to be more of with the cop side than we are the ones who are going into the system. Then don't you know, we know that times that, again, you who in the profession know what kind of comrades and other officers that you deal with. Some of them ain't right. You know they not right. But we deal with that, right? We have to deal with that. And so how do we defend ourselves when you amongst them and you can't defend it? You get what I'm saying? And so he goes on and says that because, these situations that keep repeating itself, he said it's the media that hammers the cops, right? Makes the job impossible, the criminals and the media. See, it's all about everybody else, but there is a part of the accountability that falls on you as well and others. There is some accountability. How can y'all say that every day? It's kind of like they say, sovereignty immunity, right? A sovereignty immunity means the king can't do no wrong. What? Who is that? The only king that has ever been written that, according to what we've been told, is Jesus Christ. That was the only person who supposedly is a is a perfect individual. So that means that everybody else, other than being the fact of being Jesus Christ, is imperfect. So why is it that everything has to be criminals in media when what part of that as well as accountability on y'all behalf? When do y'all become a little accountable? And that's the problem. When everybody wants to make you accountable, y'all talking about you want to quit, you don't want to do this, you getting tantrums. I just want to do what I want to do. I'm the older. I just want to do what I want to do. Okay. But then if we got rules and laws and policies, we got to adhere to. Don't you got the same too? Right? I mean, it's only common sense here, right? And so he goes on to say that based on the simple fact that what done took place and the individual got fired, that it's probably better for him. There's more opportunities, better careers for him. Wait a minute. Let's be honest here. Now, there are some people who, since they was a little boy, got their first cap gun, seen on TV, or seen a police officer come to school. Used to be officer friendly, but I don't know what they call them today. But, come to school and eyes glazed and fantasize and want to be a cop. But then there's a lot of them that they couldn't do nothing else but be a damn cop. Let me say that again. There's some of them who was a little boy who wanted to grow up and wanted to be a cop. I want to be a cop when I grow up, right? Then you got that one that couldn't do nothing. He, again, can't get right. He done did all kind of stuff. Somebody wanted to take your ass in there and be a goddamn cop. I know you can go down there in the jungle, right? And even if you're not good at it, at least just survive every night, right? So you even know that there's not a yes or no answer, but you know that some of them, if you had to evaluate, all of them ain't copacetic, all of them ain't 100. We know that, right? We know that. So, he goes on to say that Walker did everything wrong, but will get zero blame for putting himself in the situation. What situation did he put himself in? A warrant didn't put him in the situation. The warrant happened, right? And then let's look at what he says about the warrants. He said the warrants were for child abuse. Does child abuse necessarily mean with the general understanding of child abuse is? Could child abuse be he reared his children? And somebody called or somebody seen or the school seen bruises and then you understand? Does it necessarily mean because, see, a lot of time what people like to hide is the generalities of saying things, but not giving you the full scope of what that is. So to say child abuse, you can't say that to me because I'm going to look at it and say, well, what we talking about here, right? Just like when you wrote and said what you said, and when I read everything you read, and I said there was one thing that you wanted to give me the link to what you're talking about. You can't give me no link. See? So that dispel everything by asking you for the link, right? And then you say, having a firearm as a felon. Okay, wait a minute. Did he use the gun on somebody? Or he had possession as a gun as a felon? See, we have to look at this. Now, again, as being in the profession, I know these are the terms that are being used. And this is how everything is justified. But if a person is living in an environment that breeds criminality and all the things that y'all, as police officers, what y'all do, I think the land of the rule of the law of those who participate in that is, they say they'd rather carry 6 than be carried by 6 or 12, right? Or 6 or 12. Well, you'd rather carry 6 than to get shot by 6 so that you rather shoot the 6 so that you can be carried by 12, right? Whatever that goes, right? That's something I made up. But anyway. So, all right. So, with that being said, is if they got 6 with a 6 shooter with a gun, I better keep my 6 too, so I got a better shot. I'd rather take my chance with that to be judged by 12 than to be sitting the 6 foot in the box. Now, to those who play that game, that's the rule of the game, that how they play. So, felon and having a firearm, yes, it's breaking the law because the law says that once you're a felon, you can't have a gun. Yes, but not just to say you had a warrant because of that. Where's the crime in that other than the fact that he ain't supposed to have it? He didn't stick up wasn't no robbery, none of that. It was just the fact he had a possession. All right, fine. But, it's not to make it less. It's just the fact that, okay, okay. You understand? So, I'm just going to say that, I'm just going to say this, right? We all in this so that we can all survive. We got too many other different dynamics going on in this country, dealing with race, bigotry, hatred, lack thereof, opportunities, access to, finances, and all kinds of things. We as BADOS, Black American Descendant Slaves, right? And then compound with all the other stuff that all the luggage of everybody else they got, right? So when we in situations, if you want this to be mealable in a way that, okay, y'all, everybody wants to say, well, if you just complied, but they don't have a lot of police in white neighborhoods. So it's always in neighborhoods who are a little, disenfranchised, poor. And so a lot of times we grow up in these areas and, we've known cops all our lives. And some of us done had cases where things have been put on us, some of the stuff we ain't never did. But these are the unsung stories that are never going to be told. But when we talk about it, it's like saying, for instance, we've been saying all the things that have been happening all this time, right? Everybody thought, oh, that's just a figure of your imagination. Everybody in jail said there's innocent. And then there started to be evidence that you could see all the stuff that's happening. Now, even with that being said, and everybody can see it, you still want to say, even though what you see is that's not it. So when you're making your judgment, you didn't even see it all. What else did I need to see? Because everything I needed to see was everything that you said. So they didn't even write that. You know why? There's a reason why they didn't write that? Because there's a lot of holes in that. There's a lot of things, again. You can't get A starting from C, right? You want to start with A, but you started from C to get to A. There was no A, B. There was just C, and then we created B to get to A. That's why. That's why they had to do what they had to do, right? Anyway, y'all tell me what y'all think, man. I just want to relay this because, again, he told me some things that let me know that he said, I don't know, it was my video that y'all sat down and roll call and did. But anyway, in that case, I'll take that as a, compliment, unless y'all got some other things that y'all thinking about doing. But anyway, y'all tell me what y'all think. Maybe you see the situation different. Maybe it could be that I misinterpret what you said. Again, I am the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. Again, for those who want to subscribe and help me in some kind of way, go over to Black MINDZ TV. That's BLAK MINDZ TV. Go over there and subscribe, right? Help me to get that channel so that I can get the 1,000 and get it and so forth. Because, they done did everything they possibly can to make sure that this channel and myself, can you believe I was in the program, was getting paid? And took all that away from me. And because, again, I talk the things that a lot of them, you like to say that I'm making it up, but it's true, right? I'm a little seasoned, right? And I can articulate the point, right? And I know you might be over here, that's what y'all trying to do, but it is what it is, man. By now, y'all know what it is. So, again, most hated show, again, go to Black MINDZ News over there and subscribe. And let's get one more of these in because we didn't get many of these in. Check this out. We'll be right back. All right, once again, I want to thank everybody for clicking on the video. Again, comment, subscribe, share, do all the things you do to help. Again, this is the most hated show on the black corner of the internet. And so until my next show, yo, to the next show.